I was listening a little into the call earlier on, and your CFO was talking about the fact that you trimmed guidance due to uncertainty surrounding future phone sales. So I'm curious, where are we seeing that lack of visibility? Is it in the SME sector? Is it in the consumer space? Is it in the enterprise space? Can you give us a little color on that?
No, so we had a really good quarter. We had 5% increased EPS, including our increased cost for COVID-19, and we had 26% up on our cash flow. So we had a really good quarter, but we had some impact in the last 4 weeks here from the COVID-19, including then the part of April, where we see lower transaction on the handset side. But not only that, we see less of roaming, etc. So when we talked about that guidance, we decided to guide on the earnings per share. As revenue, there are so many moving parts there. And some of are inflected by us, some of the market. We decided, for example, to keep America connected, where residential customer and SMB customers that has been impacted by the COVID-19, we are not disconnecting them, even though they cannot pay at the moment. So, of course, that is impacting our numbers. But we're doing it all right for the long term and for our customers. But in general, we still have a strong performance, and we guided down our EPS a little bit for the rest of the year. But we thought it was more important to give the transparency of all the details we have to our shareholders, for them to understand what we are working with every day.
Look, one of the critical things about returning the economy to normal is whether or not the SME sector is going to be there to bounce back. You have quite a lot of visibility on what is happening in the SME space right now. What kind of information are you getting? What are your customers telling you? What do you anticipate will be there when the economy reopens?
So the last 4 weeks, we have seen an impact from SMBs, of course, with problems to pay their bills and etc. We're not disconnecting them. We're working with them to find models, and that's a commitment we have. We will not disconnect any of them in this moment. On the other hand, we see enterprise customers on the wireless side doing much more ordering and asking for much more services. So it's a blended portfolio, but clearly SMBs are impacted of this COVID-19, and they live in an uncertainty when the market will be back and they will be back in business. So it's not strange that they initially are expressing concerns to us. What we've seen the last week or two is that the payments are coming up back again, both from consumers and from small and medium companies. Still not to the normal, but clearly a small indication of that they are recovering and seeing that they are able to pay.
Hans, you're in a race with AT&T and T-Mobile for 5G for the early customers, and you have upped your allocation to that. When this year do you anticipate a launch of nationwide 5G?
Yes, we came out in this year with clear ambitions, both to build more ultra-wideband in some 60 cities, but to also do it nationwide. So far, we're on plan for our deployment on 5G. We're actually a little bit ahead when we close the quarter. And today, when we sit here, we are on plan on our 5G deployment, which is 5 times more radio base station this year compared to 2019. And of course, there's not without obstacles, but our team in the field are doing a fantastic work, working with municipalities, getting digital approvals for permitting, etc., that we never had before. And we have good visibility from our supply chain that are supplying us with equipment. So all in all, at this moment, we're on plan. We are pushing hard forward because we think that 5G is going to be an extremely important technology for the US market. Of course, we're going to expect some obstacle, but so far my team has been very good to finding ways to continue to deliver on that. And as you said, in this quarter, we also increased our capex. We saw an opportunity to invest more with good return on investment, and we thought it was the right thing for the country to continue to invest when we can and with good return for our shareholders.
Do you have a target date that you're sticking to? And what about expanding capacity given that there are limited airwaves available?
So two things here, man. First of all, when it comes to when we're going to launch nationwide, our technology team will put in the hands of our commercial team that possibility, and our commercial team will decide when it's the right time, given handsets and all of that. When it comes to our spectrum, we have an enormous change in our network today. Usage up to 800 million calls a day, twice the amount of Mother's Day. We have 200% growth of gaming. However, our network is holding up very well, and our headroom in our wireless network is equally big right now as it was when pre-COVID. So the guys are doing a great job with our assets, and we feel good about having the best network in the United States.
Hans, you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation about the decline in revenue that you're obviously seeing as a result of roaming. People are stuck at home, they're not traveling. I'm curious as to what you think the long-term story surrounding roaming is likely to be. Do you think people are going to travel less and that roaming revenue will be structurally lower?
I think that we're going to see a new normal in many facets of our society. One will be it's going to go slower to come back to traveling, for sure. Even though we're going to see a recovery of our economy, I think that people will be more hesitant to travel for a while. So I think that that's one of the things that we believe it's going to be a little bit more long-term, roaming charges being down. On the other hand, we're going to see also barriers being broken on telehealth, remote education, that we have been struggling before. But I think now everyone has seen that that's working, and it's a new normal that will work even after this pandemic is over. And we all need to remind that we are in a pandemic as well, which is an extremely serious situation that is impacting each and everyone on this planet at the moment.
Yeah, I think remote education in my house is turning out to be a little bit more tricky than maybe we first anticipated. But Hans, let's talk a little bit about kind of where we go next and what is likely to happen. We've got an economy that's going to reopen at some point. I'm wondering whether or not you are starting to see people moving around a little bit more in the networks. And I'm also wondering as well whether or not you are going to be part of that reopening process, because contact tracing looks like it's going to be a big part of the way that governments are going to deal with this. What role are you going to play in that?
So first of all, on the mobile handoffs, which is here in the US, we can see how our customers are moving in between the cells is down 35% since the outbreak of the pandemic. That means that people are moving 35% less. But it's very different from state to state. I mean, if you take New York City, it's down over 50% of how people are moving in the city. That means that people are staying at home. So that's clearly what we see on the overall pattern on the network. When it comes to tracing, so far we have not been involved in anything of that. That's more of sort of apps that are doing that more than the network doing any of those tracing work.
Hans, what kind of shape are consumers in? I know that you waived some fees for example, extra data payments and so on. You're not charging your clients, you're being a little bit forgiving on that. Tell us what you see in the US consumer and in payments, for example. Are they paying on time?
We increased our bad debt in the quarter with the visibility we have going forward with some $228 million US. That reflects, of course, a slower payment from our customers and the worry they have for the future. On the other hand, as I said before, we see a little bit better payment pattern the last week here right now that the customers are coming back and paying. So, but we're not disconnecting them, and ultimately it's about to work with our customers. We understand that connectivity these days are essential for keeping this country up and keeping people connected, running their businesses. So we're not disconnecting, we're keeping them up, but we work with them. But clearly we have seen some uptick in bad debts at the moment, but we work with our customers.
Hans, obviously you're in a relatively better position, let's say, than some of your competitors and in this market, a down market, and you've got some cash on hand. Are you rethinking M&A strategy now that valuations have changed?
As you saw, I mean, in this quarter, we increased our capex because we thought it was a good return on investment. We also made one of the first acquisitions in this pandemic. We acquired Blue Jeans Video Conferencing just a week ago, even though we have worked with them for a long time. But clearly, we have put ourselves in a very good situation with our balance sheet. We have worked for years to see that we are in this position. We have even done bond issue, which is very cost effective in this quarter, so in the first quarter. So clearly we are in a good situation, but we will spend wisely and balanced in these times. We have our capital allocation clear for us. Number one is to invest in the business. Number two is our dividend. Number three is paying down the debt. And number four is share buyback. And right now it's unlikely that we do any share buyback this year, but all other capital allocations, we will see that we serve well.
Hans, final quick question. The new iPhone goes out to consumers today. It is a low-cost iPhone. What do you think demand's going to look like, and do you think consumers are going to be more kind of open to a lower-cost phone right now?
It's hard to say. It's a little bit too early, but of course it might encourage some of our customers to go that way. But I would like to wait a couple of weeks to see how the throughput is there. But finally, an Apple phone is always exciting.